Hi, Arcfieldweather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday morning, October 17th. I'd like to go over several different topics today. We'll first start off in the tropics and take a look here up front at the sea surface temperature anomalies. We'll then get into some precipitation discussion about rainfall and snowfall over the next 10 days or so. Finally, we'll take another quick look at the comet that's still visible in the western sky and should be for at least another few evenings here, and we'll talk about that at the end of the video discussion. Here is the current sea surface temperature anomaly map across the globe. A few things I want to highlight as we start to prepare for a winter outlook. Again, we're closing in on the latter part here of the month of October, and pretty soon I'll be putting out a winter outlook, and one of the first things I'd like to take a look at sea surface temperature anomalies, not only current, but what can be expected during the upcoming winter season. We, of course, have been talking about La Nina conditions. That is colder than water temperatures in the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean. That has indeed come to fruition. It looks like this La Nina event should survive right through the upcoming winter season, probably become neutralized during next spring, but colder than normal waters right here in the tropical part of the Pacific Ocean. This is the west coast of South America. Right now I'm thinking a weak to moderately strong La Nina over the upcoming winter season. Certainly does not appear to be a very strong event, but maybe weak to moderate range throughout December, January, February, and into March of next year. Now, another area of interest right here, tucked in along the Alaska coastline, a pretty widespread area of below normal temperatures right here in the northern Pacific Ocean. That can be an important factor during the upcoming winter season. We had several winters in a row, maybe 5-10 years ago, where we had a lot of warmer than normal waters in the northern part of the Pacific Ocean, which contributed to an upper level ridge. That may be the opposite happening this particular season. But this is another area of interest. Again, pretty widespread area of colder than normal conditions up across the northern Pacific Ocean. Now, the Atlantic as a whole remains generally above normal, not quite as above normal as it's been in recent months. There certainly even a little bit of colder than normal conditions showing up, for example, in the eastern Gulf of Mexico as a result of the hurricanes that passed over, caused some upwelling, brought up some colder water from underneath to the surface. So it's still generally warmer than normal in the Atlantic basin, but not quite as dramatic as what we were experiencing a few months ago. Now let's take a quick look at the tropical scene. Really nothing too impressive right now in the Atlantic basin. By the way, the eastern and central Pacific Ocean remain totally quiet at this point. Nothing imminent in the eastern and central part of the Pacific Ocean. Right now we have two waves in the Atlantic basin, one in the western Caribbean Sea and the other kind of approaching the Caribbean Sea. Both of these, I would say, have maybe 30-40% chance of becoming named tropical systems. They appear to be just meandering out there and probably will not develop into named tropical systems. Certainly something we'll keep an eye on. Not necessarily the end of the season yet. We may have some threats going even into the early part of the month of November, but right now nothing imminent in terms of anything significant in the Atlantic basin. Now, where do we stand in terms of the accumulated cyclone energy? Again, I think this is probably the best way to measure overall tropical activity, what we call the ACE, accumulated cyclone energy. It takes into account not only magnitude of tropical storms, but longevity. So a strong hurricane that lasts a long time will add significantly to the overall ACE. And in the Atlantic basin, we are above normal, running at above normal. The normals for this particular date are shown within the parentheses, so above normal in the North Atlantic right here. This particular table, by the way, comes from Colorado State University. However, overall in the Northern Hemisphere, well below normal, and that is largely dictated by what's going on in the Pacific Ocean. And the Pacific Ocean is split into two, east of the date line and west of the date line, and both of those sectors well below normal for this time of the year. The Pacific Ocean, by far the biggest ocean in the world, by far has the biggest impact on global tropical activity, and uh, given the fact that it's well below normal, that contributes largely to the northern hemisphere as a whole being below normal at this stage of the tropical season. Well, let's kind of shift gears right now and go back to the continental U.S. and take a look at the precipitation pattern over the next 10 days. First, here we'll look at total precipitation amounts. So this is rain and snow together. It's total precipitation amounts over the next 10 days as depicted by the 0Z run of the GFS. A couple of things I want to point out. First of all, not much precipitation at all expected in much of the eastern states here. In some areas, nothing at all. Where you see white here, this is a prediction of zero rainfall over the next 10 days, and it's been very, very dry in much of the Middle Atlantic region, much of the northeast U.S. In Philadelphia, for example, there has not been a drop of rain at the official weather station in Philadelphia, PHL. New York City, only a trace for the entire month of October. Washington National Airport, Reagan National Airport, DCA, had a significant rainfall on October 1st, but since that first day of the month, only 2/100ths of an inch at Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. And again, it looks like over the next several days, doesn't show much promise for getting any kind of a soaking rainfall throughout much of the eastern states. And that goes for the Midwest and portions of the Great Lakes as well. Not much rainfall at all. Now, out across the Rocky Mountains, decent amount of rainfall, decent amount of precipitation, I should say. A lot of this will fall in the form of snow. We'll take a look at the 10-day snowfall map in a moment. Then, out in the Pacific Northwest, southwestern part of Canada, British Columbia area, a lot of precipitation. Again, a lot of this will fall in the form of snow in those higher elevation locations. Now, this is the total snowfall forecast from the 0Z GFS for the next 10 days of the real winter, the Rocky Mountain states. If you're a skier, you like to go out west, it certainly looks like many areas will have some decent snowfall over the next 10 days or so. Substantial snowfall of those higher elevations. Southwestern Canada as high as 39 inches depicted here in the southwestern part of Canada and some of those higher elevations up there. If you go out another 10 days, right to the end of the month of October into the very first part of November, you will see some snowfall, maybe in this area right here, and I do believe that is a real threat here for the end of the month. There will be another cold blast coming in, and certainly we can start to see some accumulating snow over those higher elevations of the interior northeastern states at the very end of the month of October, even into the early part of November. Now let's kind of quickly go through the 850 millibar temperature anomaly forecast maps, again using the 0Z run of the GFS. Basically we have a back and forth pattern here. The cold shot followed by warmer than normal air, followed by another cold shot coming across the country as we begin the day here on Thursday. Still well below normal temperatures across much of the south and east. It's been well below normal over the past few days. You see out across the northern plains, quite a bit above normal, and then the far western U.S. below normal. We'll move forward here in time. This chill in the air across the southern and eastern states gives way over the upcoming weekend, at least the northeastern states and the Great Lakes. Nice weekend shaping up. Probably high temperatures in the 70s. Places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Saturday, and certainly on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday as well. And again, continuation of dry conditions in much of the northeastern U.S. You see an area below normal temperatures out across the southwest U.S. Then when we get into the early part of next week, kind of a widespread area across the northern U.S. of above normal temperatures. Just a temporary thing, though. We go forward in time to the middle of next week, and here we are on Wednesday, and then finally Thursday, a week from right now, another cold air mass dropping into the Great Lakes region and ultimately into the northeastern part of the country. And we'll go out a little farther in time, and that gives way to another big warm-up relative to normal across the middle part of the nation, and then that will be followed by yet another cold blast right here showing up at the end of the month here. We're all the way out, almost 2 weeks from right now, with another cold shot coming into the Great Lakes and then into the northeastern states right around Halloween time. Whether this holds true or not, this is, of course, speculation phase at this point, being 2 weeks out, but I do believe there are signs that this will come to fruition. Perhaps not exactly like it's shown right here on the GFS from last night, but another cold shot coming right at the end of the month, maybe into the early part of November for the Great Lakes, northeastern U.S. And again, that could be associated with some snowfall over some of those higher elevation locations of the interior northeast. Well, let's now quickly go through the surface forecast maps. There is a nice area of rainfall, but it's off the east coast here. This will not help out with the dry situation in the mid-Atlantic region. It's a close call, but it misses off to the right here. We'll go forward here, and we can see a lot of tight isobars right here, and that is associated with a warm fetch of air out of the southwest here, really on the backside of this high pressure where winds blow clockwise around high. So that is pushing some very mild air from the southwestern part of the nation all the way into the central plains and northern plains and upper part of the Midwest here over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. Now, we'll continue to move forward. You see this storm out here with some blue, and there will indeed be some accumulating snow out across the Colorado Rockies, for example, and other parts of the Rocky Mountain states will see accumulating snow over the next few days. Meanwhile, in the east here, we just have this incredibly strong high pressure system that hangs on here for several more days, again with a continuation of rain-free conditions in this part of the nation for the next several days. Now let's quickly move forward here into the upcoming weekend and then into the early part of next week. This high just stays put and dominates the weather pattern in the eastern half of the nation, where it's been very dry and will continue to be very dry. And we go forward into the middle part of next week. This is Tuesday, and then Wednesday, and then finally by Thursday. This is a week from right now. Largely a dry pattern across the nation. There will be another frontal system coming into the northeastern part of the nation with a cold shot behind it that will affect the Great Lakes, northeastern U.S. towards the latter part of next week. Well, let's just wrap up with a little bit of talk about the comet in the western sky here. This is at arcfieldweather.com. Just go to arcfieldweather.com and click on space weather, and you'll get this particular diagram and this particular article on the comet. It continues to remain visible in the western sky, but it is losing its brightness day by day as we go into the latter part of October. It can be visible, let's say, for another week or so, but again, each night it's losing a little bit of its brightness. The good news is it's a little bit higher each night. Go out, look to the western sky about 45 minutes to an hour after sunset. Doesn't stay up there all that long, because what you see will be dropping to the horizon, and by mid-evening will be below the horizon. Again, each night it's going up a little bit higher and higher at its starting point, 45 minutes or an hour after sunset. And but that's the good news. But the bad news, it's getting a little bit less bright, which with each given night. By the way, to get your bearings straight here with respect to the position of the comet, you'll see a big bright Venus to the lower left of the comet, and another bright object, Thurs, to the upper right of where the comet is. So again, kind of look in between in the western sky, in between these two bright objects, and binoculars are recommended, at least initially, to get a viewpoint of where the comet is, and then you could probably put away the binoculars and take a look with the naked eye. But again, still have a few more evenings to take a look at the comet in the western sky. That's it for now. For arcfieldweather.com, this has been meteorologist Dorian.